The thing I was going to lead off with is I'm actually the first Australian to speak today. Now, it may not sound like it. I'm an adopted Aussie, obviously, but I've got the passport and the little stuffed koala that they give you when you go forward for your citizenship. So I've been in Australia for about 12 years. And I think that the topic that we're going to be discussing today, so the application of digital technology in allowing businesses to respond to the war for talent, is critically important not only for us as business leaders and managers, but also as a country. I think that in terms of productivity and our international competitiveness, this topic is really important. And so we've been really proud to work with Google. We've done a series of research pieces and reports over the last 2 years. And the topics that we've looked at around digital technology are the impact in the broader macroeconomic economy, so the impact of the internet on GDP in Australia. We've also looked at small business and how digital technology can significantly impact the productivity and the revenue generation of small businesses. But the piece of research that I'm going to talk to you about today is a report that we launched about four weeks ago with Google, titled The Connected Workplace. So looking at digital technology in the context of the war for talent. And so a number of you may be sitting in the audience today saying, so what in the world is a guy from a firm that has 150 years worth of conservative accounting heritage talking to us, working with Google, speaking at a Google event and talking about digital technology? Well, I've got to tell you, at a firm like Deloitte, digital is an incredibly important topic for us, for our business, and how we respond to our clients. So over the last 10 years, we've invested very heavily in digital capability. Our small to medium enterprise business unit has established the TechFast 50 program in Australia and looks at supporting the fastest growing technology startups, helping them to find funding, helping them to evolve and grow into bigger businesses. 2 years ago, we acquired Access Economics, and the Access guys played a very crucial role. In fact, they play a significant role in all the research that we do on this topic. And they have a significant voice at the national policy level and believe that digital disruption is something that is incredibly important for the most senior politicians and individuals out there that are setting the course for the country. And then Deloitte Digital, the business unit that I lead, helping our clients to respond to, set a digital strategy, implement digital technologies and the like. So over the last 10 years, data and digitally enabled services have grown to become 20% of our revenue base at Deloitte. So we're moving beyond the 150 years worth of accounting to where digital and technology is incredibly important. So in the broader context, we did a piece of research last year, and we looked at the digital disruption that is likely to occur in the Australian economy over the next 5 years. And what we found is over 2/3 of the Australian economy is very likely to be significantly disrupted in that time frame. And in fact, there's a group of businesses, the retail, ICT sector, financial services, media, professional services, so Deloitte fits in that category. We refer to that as the short fuse big bang quadrant. So those are businesses that within the next 3 years are going to see at least 30% disruption. So, overall what's happening is that things are moving incredibly quickly. Government, education, and the like, we're projecting 5 years out. It could move a lot quicker, but there's a very complex stakeholder environment there. So we believe that it's going to take a little bit more time, but it will be significant as it comes through. Now Doug referred to the adoption of technology in Australia and Asia Pac, and what's interesting, what's driving the digital disruption in the economy is the Australian consumer. There are few more voracious adopters of digital technology in the world than Australians, and we rank in the top 5 in mobile, smartphone, tablet adoption, social media as well. In fact, we've got 23 million Australian citizens in the country. 3 million of whom are in school. You'd assume they're not carrying a smartphone yet. But we've got 30 million connected devices, mobile devices already, and that's growing at a double-digit rate still. So the default position in the economy is that every adult Australian in the future is going to have at least one device, probably 2, and they're going to be deeply connected. And the top thing that we do on these devices is we access social networks. So the average Australian that's connected and is online spends the average of around 2 full business days, the equivalent of two full business days a month, looking at social networks and connecting with friends. And even online shopping, our retailers here have a tough time because, online shopping is growing at a clip of 25% year over year. It's the only aspect of retail business in Australia right now that's growing. So the Australian consumer is voracious when it comes to digital technology. They're primed, and that's how they want to work. But then if you look at statistics from the World Economic Forum, The Economist, Intelligence Unit, Boston Consulting Group, and the like, Australian business tends to rank around 16th to 22nd in the adoption of digital technology in business and the digitization of business. So I think there's a real conundrum there. It's a real shame because the consumer's ready to go, but business is lagging behind. And I think that it's really important to us as a country because there is a war for talent on. And for our businesses to be competitive, they're going to have to do things to differentiate. And having access to technologies that you want to work with at work could be that thing that puts you up over the top in a competitive landscape. We've seen that the statistics around the access to knowledge workers and the like is shrinking. And I think there's kind of a general sense of economic malaise right now in the country. The headlines, the business headlines are kind of consistently negative. But if we take a step back and we're pragmatic about it, Australia is still the lucky country. The unemployment rate is still under 6%. For knowledge and information workers, it's lower than that. So there absolutely is a war for talent on out there, and businesses are going to have to be doing everything they can to differentiate themselves in the marketplace and to attract talent. And the statistics play this out. In fact, what we've seen is that for every 100 people that are retiring, there's now only 125 people coming into the workforce, coming out of education, whether they're coming out of university or a TAFE or they're exiting high school. So the situation that we find ourselves in 2000, it was 180 people entering the workforce for every 100 that was retiring. So the pool of workers is dropping off, and business is alarmed by this. So as in our research, we found that the war for talent skills shortage, even in the current kind of economic malaise, is still a top 3 issue for most businesses. And 50% of businesses have said this is one of our most important issues that we're dealing with. And the direct impact of this then, 20% of businesses have said we have not been able to carry forward an innovation, a product or a service, because we have not had the skilled people that we needed to take that forward. So the skills shortage war for talent is impacting business right now, and is likely to continue to carry forward. So when we looked at the data, we surveyed about 550 people in the country throughout all the different geographies and different industries that are out there. And what we found was there was a remarkable difference between the satisfaction rates of individuals that had access to the most progressive and flexible IT policies. There was almost a 20% difference between individuals that could access social media at work, that had access to collaboration technologies, could bring their own device, and had the option to work from home, at least on a limited basis. Those individuals had kind of an 80% satisfaction rate. Individuals down here that didn't ranked around 63%. So there was a remarkable difference as the data came through around the satisfaction rates. And then what that translates into is a really significant retention discussion. So those most satisfied employees that had access to all the technology that they wanted to work with, only 3% of those individuals were actively looking to leave their business in the next 3 months or so. The individuals that were least satisfied, 9% of them were actively involved in a job search, were actively thinking about leaving their employer. So that's a remarkable difference and something that's going to translate into a business impact. Because as we look and do a bit of a calculation on what the cost impact can be, we've estimated that replacing a knowledge worker costs about 75% of an annual salary. So when you take into account the recruitment fees, the onboarding, the learning curve of that new employee coming into the business, the mistakes they make, the lost productivity of a skilled individual leaving, this has real dollar impacts. And if you're a small business, you might expect to have kind of a $50,000 to $70,000 hit every year around attrition. A medium-sized business, a business with about 500 employees or so, could expect 350 to 500,000 in attrition-related costs. But then a business of over 1,000 people, you're looking at millions and millions of dollars potentially walking out the door and inefficiency as you're dealing with attrition issues. So we think there's a significant bottom line cost impact around not being able to retain your workers. And if your workers don't have access to good technology, then they're more likely to be thinking about leaving you than they otherwise would be. And that's maybe a little bit of the darker side, that's the cost side of the business. But what we found is those most satisfied employees, they were 18% more likely to be collaborating with their colleagues in a proactive way, whether their colleagues were based within Australia or overseas. And so I think if you put the productivity and the revenue and profitability generation lens on, there's a win here as well. So I think there's two sides of the equation in making your employees more productive by supporting them with technology. And then the macroeconomic productivity statistic that we really like is we've estimated that if only 10% of Australian knowledge workers worked from home one day a week, that would contribute to almost $2 billion worth of productivity gains to the economy. As you're not stuck in traffic, people can get to work and can work more efficiently in a less distracted way. We think there's significant upside. And what's interesting is that overseas, we're seeing teleworking and working from home being adopted. It's becoming very pervasive and very normal. In Australia, it's not yet set in yet as a standard working practice. And I believe we'll hear later today on the customer panel some of the Google customers that are looking at driving teleworking as a way of making their business more efficient. One thing that we were really surprised about as the data was coming through in the survey that we looked at is there is still a really big barrier around the basics in IT and business. And as we were assembling the data and starting to look at it, we started to think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but it's a psychology construct that basically states if you're concerned about food and physical security, you're not going to be thinking about making yourself a more self-actualized person. And so we looked at the data coming through, and job satisfaction with employees, it starts with having a good relationship with your manager, feeling like you're respected, and feeling like you're paid fairly. That's the base of the triangle, and that's where everything starts. Technology is not going to give you a great experience at work if you hate your manager and you feel like you're underpaid. So if you can take that aside and assume that that's okay, the big barrier around driving satisfaction is really core IT issues. We got a lot of feedback around the fact that I've got a 4-year-old PC, I've got a PC and not a laptop, I can't move it around, I can't work in a mobile way, my internet connection drops out all the time, I've got too much spam, or I've got too slow of an internet connection. And we were actually really surprised, 50% of the respondents said that they're dealing with basic IT issues. And then once you get all the foundations laid, then you're able to think about collaboration technologies, bring your own device and the like. And what I think is interesting is that if businesses are still stuck with the basic IT problems, what's going to happen when wearable technology and the Internet of Things and all of that comes through? And that's, in the next year or so. That's not 10 years off. So we really advise our clients, get this basics right and start to work on that, because the speed of innovation, the pace of change is not going to slow down. This is another thing that I think most of us in the room would probably understand and expect. The consumerization of IT now means that people at home have better technology than they have at work. And this is absolutely reverse to what you saw 10 years ago. Almost half the respondents felt that they had better access to technology at home. And I think it was Damon Rees, who is the head of Run IT from Woolworths. He gave us the best quote that we saw in the research as we talked to the Google customers, and said that, what we're doing to our employees is as they come into work in the morning, they turn off current technology and they turn on old technology. So even Woolworths is going to talk about a really good case study about rolling out iPads to store managers and really investing in technology. But even they admit there's more to be done in providing a better experience for individuals at work. And there's some really big names that are taking this topic very seriously. So yeah, we are starting to see progress. Westpac in their IT department is really redefining the roles that their workers do and looking at what they do and where they need to do that from. And what that means is they're looking at a lot of the transactional activities that the workers have done in the past. They're looking to automate that away with software so that those workers can then step up and do more interesting work, more higher value add work, but then also where do they need to be? Do they need to be out with colleagues or with customers and the like? So looking at a bring your own device policy, teleworking as appropriate, and Westpac with a significant workforce has the ability to make a significant impact there. Fairfax was probably one of the most interesting stories, and you'll hear a lot about that in the afternoon, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but this is a great example of where a company has taken the technology change to the worker at their pace and used a push-pull approach. So they decided to standardize their email platform on Gmail. That was the push out to the employees. But then the pull was they made it optional to adopt Google apps, such as Google Docs. And there were employees in the business that were very keen to volunteer to be super users and champions of the technology, because they probably used it already in their personal lives, and volunteered to help to drive that change inside the organization. And I think they were fairly surprised to see that within just a short time frame of putting Gmail in, they had over 50% of their employees using Google Apps because of that opt-in approach that they supported. I know from my own personal experience, collaboration inside an organization like Deloitte, excuse me, where we have individuals, 60% of our individuals work out at client sites, and we have quite a young cohort of people. It's so important that our CEO, Guillaume Swiggers, who's an individual in his mid-50s, who is the CEO of a very traditional or historically traditional Big Four accounting firm, went on to Sky News 2 years ago and said, I don't think you will be able to be an effective leader in the future if you don't use social media. So to me, that's a tremendous statement that someone at that level who's not a digital native thinks it's that important. So then as a partner in Deloitte, in that business, that puts enormous pressure on me then to think about how I interact with my staff and how I collaborate and the like. And this is really important for us because 75% of our firm is under the age of 35. And I think we talk a lot about Gen Y and being young knowledge workers. The oldest individuals in the Gen Y cohort are now hitting 35. So these individuals are becoming junior executives, general managers, decision makers, and the like. So even your junior, senior people are digital natives that are coming through. And so this is an incredibly important topic for us as we think about how we manage our business. And that's only going to get worse because the high school graduating class of 2013, they were born in 1996. So as was mentioned earlier, they don't know a time before the internet. This isn't technology to them. This is just how they work. This is how they communicated with their friends in high school. It's that basic. And so as those individuals, if we're going to be attracting the quality of graduates that we want and to have the right kind of employer brand, then we absolutely have to have that focus inside our firm. And so Guillaume, in 2008, decided we need to get serious about collaboration, social media, and the like. We need to get our people on and start to do this. And so we ran a campaign, a series of campaigns. One was to come up with taglines for a new marketing campaign. So we encouraged everybody to get onto a platform, submit ideas. We had several thousand ideas submitted. The winning one was put on a billboard. The winner got a trip somewhere. It was a really big deal. Got everybody on the network. And then people naturally started to collaborate. Hey, I've got a proposal I'm putting together for a business that's doing a transaction in Indonesia. Does anybody speak Indonesian? Does anybody have any experience with the Indonesian business marketplace? A question that they'd put out that would have taken maybe days to resolve in the past started to then take a matter of minutes as people would respond, and people saw the value. So we very rapidly adopted collaboration tools in our social network, but what Guillaume saw was that our senior partners weren't participating. And so he got pretty frustrated and he thought, are they intentionally not on strategy with me? Are they, trying to push back on this? And as he dug into it a little bit, what he found was that these senior partners, these individuals who are kind of 45 to 55 years old, have spent the last several decades building their own personal brand and eminence in the marketplace. So these are individuals that deal with senior clients, they speak at conferences, they write articles and the like. And what we found was that they were terrified of making a mistake in public because they had so much at stake with their personal brand. And they don't know what a hashtag is, and they didn't know how to use a mention. And so what we did was we put in place a digital mentoring program. We took the newest graduates that were coming into the organization, many of whom have been blogging for 2 years and have 800 followers on Twitter when they walk in the door, and we sat them down with the most senior partners in the organization to teach them how to use our internal social network, teach them how to use Twitter, how to build a LinkedIn profile, and the like. And what that did was it got our most senior market-facing people comfortable with these tools and actively engaged both externally and internally. But then it also gave a tremendous opportunity to drive staff engagement. When I was a graduate in consulting, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere near a senior partner. I was doing too much photocopying and testing to do that. And so here are these individuals that have built personal and professional relationships with very senior people by teaching them how to do something. So it's completely reversed the roles. And the engagement that we've seen from staff has been tremendous. And what this has enabled us to do, we last year, after our network had been in place for about 4 years, we ran some analytics on what was happening inside this network. And what we found was our partners and our directors, the most senior people in our business, the ones that were most active on social networks, generated 50% more revenue than the individuals that were inactive on the network. And then we looked at statistics around staff, the more junior staff, and we found out that an individual that posted at least 10 times on our social network in any given year, the attrition rate for those individuals was only between 2 and 6%, depending on the year. And that's in an industry where the average is 18 to 20% in terms of attrition. Now, there's a question around causality there. Is it because they have the tools, they're more connected and more productive, or are they more productive and connective people and they're using the tools? We actually don't care. We're just really happy that we get the results like that, and we think there's a lot to be said for enabling collaboration in the firm. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking about, all right, well, how do I do this? I know I need to. There's kind of a simple 4-step process that we recommend. The first is you need to communicate out to the organization what is the business objective that you're trying to achieve. Don't make this about rolling out a piece of technology. It will probably fail. What it's got to be is we want to drive better sales force effectiveness, we want to drive better staff engagement, we want to get products out to market faster. That's the thing, it's the business topic. And then we recommend you take an inspiring young-ish leader. So that Gen Y cohort, those 35-year-olds that are digital natives, what we always recommend is try to find somebody that's winning in the business. They're a big revenue generator. They take new products to market. They've got a really great internal or external brand because they're probably already using these technologies to have success in their role. So find a way to get them involved in the communication and positioning of the initiative out to the rest of the organization. I'm successful in my role in the business because I connect, I collaborate, and I happen to use these tools. So get somebody that's very visible, and then campaign it. Constantly be communicating out to the staff. Implement it and use the approaches that you use that work. Get all the right people involved. Take care of security. Have a formal change plan. You probably know how to implement technology already. Use the same approach that you otherwise would in rolling out the tools. But then in the supporting and embedding the tools into the organization, use the approach like a Fairfax or a digital mentoring approach. Be honest about the fact that not everybody is going to be completely comfortable. There may be some resistance, and give them the support that they need. Show them how to use the tools. Hold up positive examples of where somebody has closed a sale because they've collaborated, they've connected. Be constantly, don't put this out there, do a bit of rah-rah and then let it go. It's important to be constantly reminding the staff and taking those stories forward. So with Deloitte, we ran the tagline campaign. We then, several months in, were in the heart of the financial crisis. And we had now 3,000 people on our social network. And what we decided is we've really got to cut costs in the financial crisis. We've got to get really efficient. And the executive had a hypothesis. I bet we do a lot of dumb things. And we could sit around at the table as an executive and try to sort this out, or we could go out to our 6,000 people, because I know they would have an opinion on the dumb things that we do. So we ran a campaign over our social network called The Dumbest Things. And we said, what are the dumbest things out there? And we had our head of finance, we had our COO, we had our CEO, our CMO, most of our business unit leaders going out there and saying, it's okay to say we do dumb things. And Guillaume talks a lot about having fun with serious intent at work. And so what it did was it made it kind of a fun process to talk about what we could do better. And it was really interesting to then watch the staff respond to that about giving us negative feedback, but in a really respectful way, because we set that tone with how we approached it. So I think if you stay focused on the business result that you're trying to achieve, you support people, and you make it very visible, what you can do is position your business to just have that incremental, that bit of opportunity and strength to respond effectively to the war for talent. Thank you.